Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Bisma Sanders, the Director of Client Services here at Panos Marketing. We're delighted that you are joining us this afternoon to talk about some digital campaigns. So joining me today is Jay Belmare, the account executive who worked with us on this Midwest client, and Kayla DeLuca, our digital media specialist who directed and implemented the digital media efforts. So we're here to talk about digital campaigns. We had launched 2 campaigns for this particular client out in the Midwest. And what compounded things were a couple of different things. One was the fact that they had not been really out into the digital sphere previously. So this was our first foray in getting them out into that channel. And then secondly, they also simultaneously had a brand refresh ongoing. So it posed an interesting kind of challenge for us to get them out into the market, get them out in the marketplace so that we could get some things going for them and also represent the bank from a branding perspective. So, Jay, can you tell us a little bit more about the campaigns, what the bank wanted to set out to do, the goals of the campaigns and such?
Sure. Well, there were 2 distinct campaigns that they wanted to get started running simultaneously. The first was a mortgage campaign, which was really designed to help raise awareness of the variety of mortgage products that the bank offered and also promote them as a local partner for consumers specifically. At the time, the lending rates were a little high, so the goal was to promote and take the focus off of a specific rate offer or rate-driven campaign and instead promote the bank's knowledgeable lenders, the ease of the application process, and the fact that they serviced all their mortgage locally. In addition, we also had a CD campaign in the works that was really set up to promote a special competitive rate offer within their markets. They felt they rolled out a rate that was fairly competitive within their area, really to help drive deposits to the bank specifically.
Great. So we know that we also were undergoing kind of a brand refresh at that time, which posed some challenges. Can you guys talk about that a little bit and how we worked around that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, initially, when we were doing these campaigns, when these campaigns were under development, we were, like you said, as we were in a process of kind of refreshing their existing brand. And we kind of hit a bit of a calendar conflict with they wanted to roll these campaigns out at a certain time, and we were still in the process of doing that refresh. So at the time, our goal was to intend to have custom landing pages specifically for these digital campaigns, but the timing wasn't quite right based on when they wanted to launch. So what we did at the time, while those landing pages were still under development and while the brand refresh was still being approved, we directed the digital ad campaign to the bank's website. So there was still, consumers were still getting information. They were still able to take some action, but it wasn't as optimal as we would normally prefer. So we kind of went into it knowing that there was an opportunity for us to redirect these ads to a more focused message down the road once that brand was launched.
So Kayla, we know that we had the campaign running for a bit going to the website. Can you talk a little bit about custom landing pages? Why are they even recommended?
Absolutely. So kind of zone in on one of those campaigns a little bit. The CD campaign originally was linking directly to a rate page. Not the most ideal. Didn't have many events on the page, didn't have any clear call to actions. All of those events were kind of over in that sidebar of the page. So users were getting lost getting to that page once they clicked on that ad. And this is the main reason why we recommend custom landing pages, why they're the most ideal fit for any digital campaign. Specifically, Google has a really tough time with if your landing page isn't relevant in their terms, I should say, relevant to your ad content, to the keywords that you're driving for, they're going to rank you poorly and you're less likely to show up in those top search result spots, less likely to even show up at all sometimes, depending on what those keywords you're going for are. So really creating a landing page that's focused directly on the product that you're looking for, especially if it's special rate or anything like that, and implementing those keywords into that landing page so that they match really affects that quality score and ad rank of the campaign. As long as everything comes together, Google will rank you at a higher rate and you're more likely to perform well. If things aren't matching up, then you're less it's not going to be completely no performance, but you're less likely to get that optimal performance that you know that campaign can reach. And really having clear call to actions as well. Even if you can get the landing page to match that content, once users get to the page, if there's no clear call to action, there's no clear user journey, they're going to get a little lost and not know where to go. And usually that leads to some type of frustration for the user, and they'll usually just kind of give up, leave, and that's less likely for them to keep your product in consideration when they're further down the line in their journey making any type of decision. So really having a clear call to actions at the top of that landing page that drive users to that whatever outcome you're looking for is the most ideal. Also looking at more actionable call to actions, more ideal. If you can avoid a learn more or anything like that, where users are driven to another page and you kind of can lose tracking in that sense, sticking with something like apply now or anything on that line where they're driving right into the application and they're kind of forced to sit down, look at the application and go through it, that's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, I guess, in best terms.
Okay, that helps. I know I have, marginally being involved in this campaign, I know that we saw when things were going to the website, we weren't really getting clear conversions. We didn't know where people were going because there were so many options on those website pages for people to choose. So we saw a tremendous increase in activity once those landing pages got developed. Jay, can you talk a little bit about best practices for that landing page development? I know that Kayla talked about some things, but there might be some things also from the development perspective, from the client services perspective that are important to point out.
Sure, and I think that's, it's a great point, Bisma, because what we try to do is work with our clients to make sure that we're developing the page based on their goals and also what's going to, deliver those results that they're looking for from a spend, an ad spend. I mean, you want your money to be effective. So as Kayla had said, again, we really drive the importance of clear call to actions for consumers based on your goals. What is your institution? Do you want people to open an account, apply today, contact a lender? Very specifically driven direction so people can take an action immediately based on whatever their goals are, whatever the consumer goals are. The digital ads that drive the traffic to these landing pages has already attracted their attention. You've got them on the hook. You don't want to get them there and then have them kind of flounder around and not know what to do. You want to make sure that they can act quickly on whatever action or whatever product they're interested in. Secondly, as Kayla had mentioned too, we want to make sure that the content is based on those keyword recommendations from the media experts. So, as our team pulls together the messaging, the direction of what the consumer is going to read on those pages, to make sure that we're including those specific keywords that are going to help drive results from a reporting standpoint. On that same idea, we want to make sure that we define the user path and attracting the right users by using language that's for our intended audience or demographic. Is it a first-time home buyer? Is it somebody that's looking to refinance? Very, very different types of demographics, and we want to make sure that messaging speaks to them directly if we can. And then really these pages kind of give us an opportunity to help cross-promote other products and services, again, but in a secondary message. We want to make sure that, we can focus the consumers on, here's this great CD special offer, but don't forget, if this isn't appealing to you, we don't want to lose you, so we have other rates and terms available that they can do additional research. So it's really providing as much information and direction as possible, but in a logical, readable format.
Kayla, keyword recommendations, I think to me is a little bit of that art in the background. Can you talk about keyword recommendations and how it should match content and all that magic stuff that you guys make happen?
Absolutely. Our keyword recommendations, one of the first things before any of the copywriters get to writing those landing pages, we go through. So we run search trends based on top performing keywords for that specific product. We take those keywords that we ran those search trends with and implement them into that campaign. And kind of like I mentioned before with the ad rank, if your ad content and your landing page content don't match those keywords, Google's just going to get confused. Any other search engine would get confused and they're going to say, actually, this isn't relevant and we're not going to show you in a high spot. So we go through, make a keyword recommendation for our copywriters and pull, those top performing keywords or anything else that we think is relevant and that will pull and engage the audience. We add that in there to just kind of give them a jump point, make sure that those keywords are getting integrated into that landing page, so then we can have a better rank and quality score through Google more specifically. But
so the proof is in the numbers. We had the campaign running for a while ago on the website, and then we had the landing pages created, developed, and switched the campaign over to that. And I think that's really when we started to see some impressive results from things. Kayla, can you talk a little bit about those and what we were seeing?
yeah, absolutely. Comparing the first 21 days of the month that we ran with just going to the site, and then comparing that to the first 21 days, sorry, of the next month, just so we kind of have that equivalent timeline here, we saw a 12,500% increase in total events on that landing page. So absolutely crazy numbers, an absolutely astounding increase. What really drives that drastic of an increase is having, like I mentioned, for those concise CTAs and those clear CTAs, and then also not overwhelming your user with either a ton of events where they have too many options, and then also irrelevant events where they're being driven to pages that have nothing to do with the campaign. So keeping those events and that information on the landing page specifically to that product, which Jay touched on before, is very ideal in terms of user interaction and where you're going to get the most engagement and the most ideal engagement that you're looking for, instead of users clicking on your logo to drive back to the homepage, or dropping down if it's a CD campaign and heading to a checking page. Not the most ideal of what you're looking for. Also, another good thing to remember in terms of when users are on your page and when they get to your page, a lot of users now, especially the younger generation, I can speak to it, have short attention spans. So when they get to that page, if they don't immediately see what they want, they're out. They'll bounce. So really keeping that the most important information, whether it's a rate or any kind of benefit that the product gives, keeping that right in line of view when you get to the page, and then also that direct call to action right as soon as that user gets to the page, will drive the most action, will drive the most engagement. Not saying users won't scroll, but if they're not drawn in immediately by whatever benefit or whatever rate or anything like that, they're more likely to just kind of click and then leave. So keeping that in mind as well when you're going for wherever you're driving your campaign to.
I don't want those numbers to get lost because they're important to show the distinction of when it was going to the website, when it was going to landing pages. Did I hear 200% increase in some of the conversions on one of those campaigns? I just want to get that out there for people because that's really a huge number and a big difference.
Absolutely. So in that same time frame of the 21 days to 21 days, it was a 219% increase in impressions, 232% increase in clicks, and then once again coming back to that huge number, 12,500% increase in events. So absolute night and day difference between driving to the site and driving to a clear product focused landing page.
For sure. Certainly bringing people to the door. What they do once they get to that door is maybe some content for another webinar at some point down the road to be able to draw that cross, whatever it's called, attribution as to what they do and where they go, but to see where your marketing dollars are going. So parting thoughts from each of you. One special takeaway from each of your areas of expertise that you would throw out as a little nugget.
My biggest takeaway for you guys, if you can have a focused landing page, have a focused landing page. It's going to improve your campaign by insane numbers, really making sure that the ad content matches, the landing page content matches, and really focusing on those keywords that you want and try to keep everything really relevant and connected will work wonders.
I would say is, these custom landing pages give you an opportunity to reinforce your brand, whether it's the style, whether it's the messaging, all those kind of things. So it's really, when you look at a campaign that may have multiple facets, you're doing digital, you're doing print, you're doing social, you're doing all these other, video, doing all these other components. having these pages kind of fit within a larger brand style and kind of reinforce the bank's messaging is important to make sure to maintain that continuity. Even too, when consumers walk into your banking centers, they walk in, they see a very similar style. They're familiar with the messaging. It really kind of ties everything together, provides a unified message across all media types.
Anyone have any questions? Please put them in the chat. We're happy to answer any further questions, in particular to these campaigns or the approaches or the strategies behind them.
Question was, we've had digital campaigns running since April. Would swapping out images at the change of seasonal negatively impact the campaign/algorithm? Which I can kind of speak to that. So it wouldn't necessarily negatively impact your campaign or the algorithm. If anything, if you've had campaigns running for an extended period of time, users can, especially if the same users are seeing them more than once, you can kind of run into creative fatigue. So refreshing those ads whether it's every couple of months, every 6 months, every year, it actually helps. It'll give the algorithm kind of something to bite onto and kind of push you back up to the top where it's trying to figure out. It may take a month or so to adjust and figure out where it wants to put the new content. But if anything, it shouldn't negatively affect the algorithm or the campaign at all. Just might give you a little bit of a spike in impressions as whatever platform it is kind of figures out and tests out the new content.
There's more, Kayla, and I still am not able to see them, so if you can, by all means.
Second question, what's an ideal length of time to run a campaign? Honestly, there isn't one set time frame to run a campaign. We usually start with 3 months. I don't recommend going shorter than 3 months, usually because unless it's a super specialized campaign running around an event of some sort or a branch opening, but we usually start with 3 months. It's 1 month, that first month giving it the algorithm time to adjust, learn the campaign, learn the content, and then in that second month, it'll use that data it picked up in the first month and really hone in on a more optimal audience. And then that third month, you'll be seeing even more optimal results. So no set time frame of how long you should be running it. You can run it as long as you want to. There are search trends where you can see, like, if you're starting to see a decrease, it's likely that there's just less search interest. If you're running a search campaign, when it comes to awareness efforts, that's a little bit of a different story, but it does kind of play into each other. So if you're starting to see decreases, it's likely because there's just less interest at the time, but no set time frame of how long you should run or not. Next question. In the campaign reference, did the types of digital ad sets change or stay the same? They did stay the same. The search ad specifically, we did just rewrite the content. So technically, they did change in some aspects, but we rewrote the search ads just to match the new content and pull in more keywords. But in terms of what ad types it was, none of them changed. And then last question. What do you use to track campaign results? So and Jay, you can kind of speak to this too. We see our side of things, we kind of see impressions, clicks, click-through rate. The media team here mainly focuses on conversions and that click-through rate. We do have set benchmarks for both the industry, so you can kind of compare to the industry, as well as our own Panos benchmarks that average out amongst all the performance amongst all of our clients. But that only goes so far. So my main focus is on click-through rate and conversions and conversion rate, because if you're seeing decreases in impressions and clicks, but you're seeing more conversions, that's ideal. You're still hitting a more optimal audience. It's really just that algorithm kind of focusing in on a more ideal group. But that, like I said, only goes so far. When it kind of gets to the bank side, and Jay, I think you can probably talk more to this. When it gets to the bank side, we don't see as much, so we don't know how far it translates.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, Kayla, is, it's important for us to follow up with our clients and say, okay, they're aware, their marketing team is obviously aware that we started this campaign. So it's really kind of an internal, it kind of turns it, back to the bank and say, okay, internally, we know that this campaign started on June 1st. What have we seen? Have we seen an uptick in online applications? Have we seen an increase in calls to a lender? Have we seen more foot traffic coming into the banking centers and the branches, looking to open up accounts or inquiries about these particular products that are being offered? So it's really important to help track that internally and kind of respond and provide some of that information back to us, so we can go back and we can adjust campaigns that we need to do. Oh, we're seeing a lot of activity in location A, but it's a little stagnant in location B. Well, we can adjust the campaign a little bit to maybe, put a little bit more effort into some of those areas that might be lagging. We can look at, this is also a great example of, and it's probably a conversation for a whole nother webinar, but we seem to be driving a lot of traffic to a landing page. There are a lot of people going into an application, but then they seem to drop off. Is there potentially an issue with the application itself? Is there somewhere within the application that consumers are getting lost, or getting confused, they're dropping out of it? So, an analysis, an assessment of the actual application itself might be helpful too, if you're not seeing corresponding activity on the ground level that we're kind of showing from a reporting standpoint. So it all ties in together. It's all very important to you look at it as a very holistic kind of approach to marketing.
Great questions, everybody. Thank you for those. We're kind of closing in on the half an hour, and it doesn't look like there's any more questions, but we're here. Panos is here. If there's anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. Our naming convention for emails is pretty easy. It's the first initial and the last name at panosmarketing.com. Feel free to reach out to Kayla, Jay, or myself. We'd be happy to answer any questions for you. And again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. So long, everybody.